along with Jesse Waters, and it's 6:15 p.m. in New York, and this is the live signing. Jesse Waters' great book that he just released yesterday. It's called How I Saved the World. It's fantastic. You know I love books. If you've been here before with anybody on Fox, I love to read, and I read this one in a day. I dog-eared every page. I told everybody to buy it. So if you're here and you're for the live signing, you're in for a real treat. Jesse, do you want to say anything to your fans?
Well, I just want to thank you first, Dana, the bookworm of Fox News. I got such a big endorsement, almost as nice as my mother's endorsement. But
Your mom's
Dana's
is pretty good.
endorsement means a lot because she is a voracious reader and she brags about it. She will come in on Mondays and she goes, I read 3 books this weekend. How many did you read?
No, I never asked how many did you read. I just say I read 3 books, and I did actually last weekend. I did.
You did read 3 books. Okay, see, there she is. She can't stop bragging about her reading. But thank you for joining us for the live signing. It's a real honor to have you guys here, and I'm here to answer all your questions. I can't promise that I'm going to tell the truth, but just try to keep it PG. And maybe I'll answer a little bit of some personal stuff, but we'll see how it goes. Dana, do we have any questions?
Well, we have questions, but I can ask some of my own.
Would you like to
the show.
Hammer me, Dana?
Okay. I want to ask about the writing, like how you decided to which stories you were going to tell, because I like how it's organized with how you saved all these different things.
Yes, my brain only works chronologically. So I had to start when I was younger and tell the story from start to finish. The editor said, just pick something and just run with it, and then you can piece it all together. My brain doesn't work like that. So I had to go year by year, and whatever the and that's what I wrote about, and hopefully that's stuck.
I remember working with both the late Charles Krauthammer, Karl Rove, even President Bush, when they were writing their books. They're sort of reluctant to go back to that early childhood thing because I think, oh, then nobody cares about it. It's always the best stuff. And I loved learning about your adventures. Is it How I Saved the Outdoors?
Yes.
Can you tell people just a little bit about that, and then we'll get to their questions?
So my mother and father, big libs, tear gassed, protesting NOM in DC in the 60s, voted for Mondale, Dukakis, all those winners, and decided they needed me to build character. So what better way to build character was to just throw me into the wilderness, and it got progressively more dangerous. So it began just with like kind of a normal summer camp for a couple weeks, and then by the end of it, they were sending me into the mountains with like a book of matches and a knife, and telling me, there you go, no sunscreen, 3rd-degree burns on the face, had to use zinc oxide all over the face, not just the nose like a lifeguard, all over the face. I was in whiteface. So I guess that's okay, but
well,
for now, you never know. So you're going to hear a lot about how I survived there, and those survival skills helped me survive here at Fox News, because in a way, it's kind of like the wilderness here.
One of the things that I love about that chapter is how you talk about I just think it's so authentic, and you just tell us exactly what happened in your life, but how you tried to impress the girls with your fashion sense out in the outdoors, with your Ray-Bans, as you got into the white water rafting.
So the only thing I was really trying to do was score. I was 17, and I saw a very attractive girl who was going to be in this journey through the Cascade Mountains in Washington or Oregon. I don't even remember. So out of the gate, I throw on my Ray-Bans because I thought I looked cool. And the counselor says, no, Jesse, you can't wear your Ray-Bans. We're going on Class 5 rapids. And I said, no, I got to have a look here for this girl who I'm trying to impress. We get in the raft, and like first 5 minutes, I got launched out of the boat and was struggling to swim, and I was saved by the counselor. And as he was pulling me in, my sunglasses were floating away, and I said no, and I tried to grab my sunglasses and save them. Couldn't save the sunglasses. He pulled me out, no sunglasses, and that hurt my game.
When you say like the kind of things like you're pretty sure he hated you.
I know when people hate me, Dana. I have a very good read on that, and it's helped me survive.
No one hates you, except for that one guy you interviewed down in Washington Square Park.
Yes.
To see if he knew the 5. Okay, some questions from your fans that are here on this live signing. I'm gonna save that one for a little bit later.
Okay.
Evan from Roanoke, Virginia asks, is it okay for me to still be proud of joining the Capitol Hill Club in DC, or will that come back to haunt me if I want to run again for any office? I mean,
okay, that's not related to me, so we're not going to talk. No, I'm just kidding. So the Capitol Club, what is it, like a men's only club?
I don't know that one.
They may hold that against you. I don't care. Doesn't have anything to do with my book.
Exactly.
All
okay.
right.
All right. Jeff from Brighton, Michigan says, what do you think is the funniest story in your book?
What do I think is the funniest story in my book?
I mean, that outdoors one's pretty darn funny.
The outdoors stories are pretty good. And, you know, there are the Trump dinner at the White House, I think, is pretty good. There was a Trump dinner that I wasn't allowed to put in this book that is the absolute funniest story that I have. And I'm going to save it for the next book because
you can't tell it here.
I can't tell it here. I can't even say where it was, but I will tell that in the next book.
Why is it not allowed?
I don't want to disclose that right now, Dana, but I will tell you later. But now that you mentioned the stories about the childhood experiences being the best ones, I'm thinking my next book, I might just write all about my childhood, being raised by liberal parents.
Funny. It's pretty funny. Oh, I loved another story. Many of you, I mean, some of you might have younger fans that watch The Five that don't know about all that you did on the O'Reilly Factor. But your job interview and your first few months of working for Bill O'Reilly, that is some funny stuff.
So I started in the basement of Fox making minimum wage.
and labels.
Right. And so they'd hand me a tape. I'd take a Sharpie, I'd label the tape and hand it to a producer. So that was arts and crafts. I had a bachelor's in history and that's what I was reduced to. So there was a slot opening on the Factor. I went up for an interview. Bill was doing radio. He came in, looked at my resume and says, so what's your father do? First question, I told him what my dad did. Then I think he forgot I was there. It got really awkward and silent for a good 30 seconds. So I said, all of a sudden, Bill, I just read your latest book. It was amazing.
Always a good opener.
He perks up and says, you seem like a smart kid. You start Monday. So I started Monday and we have these pitch meetings where everyone pitches stories and I get up to pitch and Bill says, interns don't pitch. Next. And my executive producer says, Bill, you know, this is Jesse. We just hired him to be your new production assistant. He says, all right, what do you got? Go. I pitched. I bombed. Producer brings me up to his office an hour later and says, Bill does not think you're articulate enough to be in the television industry. You have 2 weeks to turn it around here or you're fired. I turned it around, Bill. And I'm coming for you because Bill's book is #1 right now, Killing the Mob. And if I could knock Bill's book off of the #1 slot, that would create a full circle.
But then his next book would be called Killing Jesse.
Killing Waters.
David from Ridgeland, Mississippi asks this: what is the funniest thing that has happened to you on the set? I'm assuming of The Five, or maybe of Water's World.
Well, let's see. I did yoga with goats on Water's World, and that was pretty embarrassing. I also played beer pong with the Mooch against the National Beer Pong Champions one time.
Who won?
We got smoked.
Okay.
Mooch didn't hit a shot. And
are you blaming him?
I'm blaming Mooch. Not the fact that we played against the champions. But I just remember, I brought shrimp into the green room the first week I was on The Five. I was a rookie. And it offended Dana and Greg so much. There was so much hostility in that green room after I did that. Like, I haven't ever had shrimp again. I don't even eat it. I'm too scared.
You can't bring fish into the green room. That's just a rule.
It was a big faux pas.
Yeah, really big faux pas early on. Well, here's a question everybody wants to know. You get asked this not only here by Sandy from Morenci, Michigan, but from everywhere, like in Washington Square Park. What is Greg like when he's not on TV?
I like Greg better off camera. You know, he's very scripted and he reads the notes and he stares at the camera and he gets really intense. Greg off and he's always complaining about something, but he's got these brilliant ideas that are just constantly churning out of his mouth.
It's a
nonstop barrage of thoughts and feelings.
What happened to the notes that you took of all the things he says in the commercial break?
So I have a chapter in the book, and I write some things down, that direct quotes that Greg has actually uttered in the commercial breaks. Because if you actually aired our commercial breaks, we'd beat Tucker.
There would be no commercial break.
There would
be no show.
There would be no show. We'd be canceled. But Greg's great, and we have some thoughts from Greg that are. I used some of these notes from Greg's utterances in the commercial breaks at a speech in Alabama one time, and the room went stone cold silent. They are graphic, and we kept some in there, and Greg approved it, so we're okay.
I think a lot of people do also have this question, which you talk about in the book. So you can get it, the full story in here, but maybe a synopsis from Cheryl in Little Rock. That's Arkansas.
Thank you, Dana.
I admire your attitude and humor in today's tough and controversial climate. What happened in your life that developed your conservative outlook and conviction?
So I got drunk in college and watched C-SPAN one day in my dorm. And I realized as a history major that the senators on the floor talking about whatever they were talking about mirrored what the founders talked about. They were trying to discuss representative government, limited government, personal responsibility and freedom, lower taxes. I said, guys, that's what the founders said. Maybe I'm a conservative. Then Dana, I listened to Limbaugh. And after Limbaugh.
How'd you first listen to Limbaugh, though? I like that.
I turned the radio on.
No, but weren't you working at some place and where they played it?
Oh, well, I interned at Lieberman's office in Hartford, Connecticut. And I was like, he's pretty good for a Democrat. But I listened to Limbaugh, became a Rush baby, and then would force my parents to turn on Limbaugh in car rides to Maine, which was long since I lived in Philly. And my mom would get road rage. And I think she rear-ended someone during a monologue on welfare reform. He literally drives my mom crazy. And Rush was the best, and we love Rush.
Yeah.
And you know what, Dana? I volunteered to work at the 2000 George W. Bush convention in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah.
And I had a little placard and I handed something out.
I volunteered at the one here in Madison Square Garden, first time in New York. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just remember it was freezing in the basement of the Madison Square Garden, which is basically where you go if you're volunteering. That
convention in 2004 at MSG, they had Schwarzenegger, they had Rudy. That was
pitch. Remember from 9/11?
Oh, they had the pitch they played from the anniversary of 9/11. That was a rockin' convention.
That was a good one. It was a good one. Burr Ridge. I don't know if that's a name or just a town. I think it must be a town. Asks us, how did you arrive at the title for the book? And how did your education and career path land you at Fox News? Oh, there's a whole chapter about that.
So Emma, my wife, came up with the name. We were working off something like World because that's my thing. And so she figured out a way to make it really humble. And we thought that was very on brand because people think of humility when they think of Jesse Waters, and it worked. And then all of our chapters are about me saving things, how I saved Christmas, how I saved journalism. Yes, I saved journalism. So when you read the chapters, you'll get a kick out of that. I was a history major. People say, well, what do you do with a history major afterwards? And you're supposed to say, whatever you want, because history doesn't really.
Charles Krauthammer used to tell people that everybody should study history because you can then do it wasn't that you can't, it's actually a great thing to study.
It is, because it makes you well-rounded, yeah. And you kind of learn a lot about everything, or a little about everything. And I didn't take any business courses.
Me neither.
And that's what I should have done, because that's why I got fired from my first job in finance.
And those are really great. Those are all really good stories in the book. I do wonder that I have a friend, and it's like the reverse in their family. Almost everybody in the family is conservative, except for this one guy. He's like the second of 4 children. And nobody in their family can understand it. And I just think sometimes you're just born that way.
It's
you have a point of view.
It's like you're born gay or straight, right, Dana?
Yeah,
you're born conservative or liberal.
So.
Nature versus nurture.
I think that there is something.
Well, let me ask you this, though, because now that we're on this topic, if you are liberal in your youth, a lot of people become more conservative over time.
Yeah.
So I think what we do a good job of on The Five, and you do it on your show too, and on your podcast, is we try to persuade And we try to persuade with facts. Now, facts are usually tough for liberals to stomach. I used to just dump facts on Juan constantly about the border and about the crime wave, and that doesn't work. So what we do on the 5 and what you do is we try to persuade with a little humor. And that's why the show works.
One of the things I love is in the book, it's not that you have great stories and you come for the stories, but stay for the analysis as well, because I felt like when I was reading it, I was laughing about a story that you had told or touched by one, like Jessica's Law and the work that you did there. But then you would have this analysis about how this fits into what people are dealing with today.
Right. So Epstein features prominently in the book too. And when we talk about all of these things that I did down at Duke University, we talk about the racial hoaxes, like the Duke lacrosse players that got railroaded, or how that tied into the Kavanaugh rape hoax that we discussed. So Jussie Smollett, I almost said Jesse Smollett.
Yeah, but
Jussie Smollett, 2 T's, perpetrated a huge rape.
We were on that from the beginning.
We were.
You want to sign some books? This is
what we're here for.
Well, we could talk for hours, Jessica. But I really love that. And there's another part in here where you talk about how you say that liberals have no sense of humor.
About themselves, Dana.
Oh, about themselves. Okay.
So you remember Jon Stewart had quite a run.
Yeah.
And he was very influential because he used ridicule very effectively. And he started having Republicans start dodging and weaving because Jon Stewart was calling him out. And when the right tries to do that, when I make jokes or anybody makes jokes, liberals won't tolerate that. They have to police our humor. If we make a joke, we're canceled because we're evil. And if we're evil, then we can't be human. And they try to dehumanize you because if you're funny, you're likable. They don't want us to be likable. They want to brand us as just evil people that, need to be canceled so we can't put food on our table to feed our family. And my family's hungry. We need to sell some books.
Yeah, they do. And speaking of, after you just saw the 5, we had to eat the baby food. Disgusting. But I'm sure he'll love it when he has.
Greg ate prunes today.
Yeah, look.
So watch Gutfeld exclamation point tonight for a surprise.
Okay, I don't know if you'll answer this or not. Bonnie from Old Westbury, New York says, "Who is your favorite co-host on the 5?" And don't be PC and say all of them. LOL.
My favorite co-host on the 5 is myself.
Very good.
Very good. I don't play favorites. Some days it's Dana. Some days it's not Dana. Sometimes Dana's
it's rare that it's not.
Sometimes Dana has a filthy mouth.
But I'm always your mom's favorite.
And it drives me crazy.
Yeah,
Half of the mom text chapter is my mom saying, "Listen to Dana."
I resist. You know how some people skip to the end of the book to see who did it?
Yeah.
I resisted for a while, but then I was coming towards that chapter of how I saved my mom's text, and I just had to skip ahead, and it's delicious. I loved it. It's so funny, and not only just because it includes.
And we do something different. We respond to all of my mom's texts.
That's the hilarious.
Because I never respond to my mom's texts because they're so hostile and I'm busy because I'm on the show.
Patricia wrote you a poem. May I read it?
You may.
She is from Hampton Bays, New York. Jesse Waters, so highly revered, you make us laugh and bring us cheer. The world can be crazy, but you make things right. We cherish your words of wisdom. You end our days with light.
Aw, that is so sweet.
Nice, Patricia.
Thank you, Patricia. Beautiful.
I think you already answered this one, but just to be sure, this is Carrie Ann from Ezel, Kentucky. Hope I'm saying that right, Ezel, Kentucky. At what age did you realize your political views were completely different from your mother's? Was it in college?
Yeah, it was in college.
Wow. Were you a liberal before then?
I don't think I was anything. Although, here's a confession. This isn't even in the book. The first time I was legally allowed to vote, I think I voted for the Green Party candidate. That should tell you about something.
Mark from Dyer, Indiana asks, how hard is it to be such an icon of truth and humility?
I love you. That's the best question I've ever gotten. People call me a rising star. They've been saying I've been rising for quite some time, but I think after this book comes out, I think I'm a star.
You've risen.
I am a published author. Yeah. Compare me to Christ, Dana.
Well, I'm sure. Isn't that what your next book is going to do? Okay, Deneen from Peoria, Illinois. Any chance, since you saved the world, that you could come and save Illinois?
Illinois needs saving, and Joe Biden does not have a plan for that. He was out there today with Lori Lightfoot. Didn't even touch foot in Chicago, I don't believe. Went about 50 miles outside. And my goodness, I went to the South Side. O'Reilly told me to go one time to check out the gang situation there. And one of the guys was leading me around, minister, and he put me in touch with a dealer. And the dealer says, I said, should I be scared around here? And he goes, we don't shoot white people. You're our best customer. And that's what this is about. It's a narcotics problem because people from all over that whole area pour into the South Side to buy drugs. And there's just so much money to be made. You're never really going to stop the shootings until you get a handle on the narcotics problem and the gang violence.
I like watching and listening and learning between you and Greg when you talk about the legalization of drugs and as an issue.
Yeah, I'm not pro legalization. I'm not there yet. Greg is trying to turn me. I just feel like the pot thing is fine. I can deal with that. If they want to vote that legal, I'm okay with it. Don't love little dispensaries around my children's neighborhood. Not that cool with that. But I can't legalize crack. There's something about crack. Have you ever seen anyone on crack?
Yeah. From Lawrence Jones's packages.
Right. You don't want people thinking you can just go buy crack and it's fine. If you got to incarcerate people or you got to put them in rehab that have that problem. Same with meth. Greg wants to legalize meth and heroin.
Everything.
I mean, you want to turn America into San Francisco? Listen to Gutfeld.
He's not here to defend himself.
He can't defend himself. That's what I like most about
but this is from Lorraine. She's from Totowa, New Jersey. My dad loves you and your shows. He watches every day. 3 exclamation points, which is more than Greg. He is turning 85 on July 12th, so I ordered him a signed copy. He would have a list of questions for you, but I would just love for you to wish him a happy birthday while podcasting your book signing. Thank you, and God bless America.
The name again?
Well, her name is Lorraine, but I don't know her. Anyway, Lorraine's dad.
Happy birthday, however old you are. And it's my birthday on July 9th, so we're both cancers in more ways than one. Speaking for myself. But God bless you and have a happy birthday. Enjoy the cake.
If you travel anywhere in the world, where would you go that you have not gone yet? This is from Kirk in Longview, Texas.
I've been to 48 out of the 50 states, Alaska and one of the Dakotas.
North.
Probably.
Yeah, mine too.
Wherever Sturgis was, I went there.
South Dakota.
So I haven't been to North Dakota, haven't been to Alaska.
My family's ranch.
So Dana has this brilliant idea. Do you want to share the idea?
No, you go ahead.
So Dana wants to invite everybody from the 5 to her ranch in Wyoming, and she wants to put me on a horse. I think she's trying to hurt me as payback.
I just think it would be a great video for the next 10 years of the 5.
Yeah, me getting bucked off.
But they love Jesse and Greg.
So I would go to North Dakota and Alaska.
Yes. But that was anywhere in the world. You're
anywhere in the world, but we're going to Tahiti. Tahiti, and we're never coming back.
Don't say that. Chris from Avella, Pennsylvania. Are all of your suits blue? Do you have any black or gray suits? You don't.
I have a gray suit that an executive here told me she doesn't like.
Oh.
So I haven't worn it. And every time I wear it,
you can hear
I get a note. So I don't look good in gray. Apparently charcoal works for me.
It's surprising that you don't look good in every color.
Thank you, Dana. And I think I look great in gray, but apparently I get washed out. But black, isn't that for like a tuxedo?
I don't know.
I don't have a black suit.
One the other day.
Yeah, Gutfeld has
a whole tie exclamation point.
He has a whole thing going on with his fashion. I think his wife dresses him, who we like, by the way.
Yes, we do. Drew from Bennington, Vermont says, "What's your hope for election 2024, Trump or DeSantis?"
Well, I've been to Bennington, and boy, do I need to save that city. That's a rowdy liberal bastion. So Trump's going to just figure out if he wants to jump in after the midterms, and he'll get the lay of the land and he'll make the call. DeSantis, I really like. I think he's powerful and shoots straight and very effective. In a way, he handled the pandemic more effectively than most governors in the country, and because he protected the elderly. That was his priority, while keeping everyone else's freedoms intact, the schools and the small businesses. And he had a little mini 9/11 to deal with this past week with this collapse in Sunrise. So he's a lot has been thrown at him, and every time he's been challenged, I think he's handled it pretty well. And I could see him making a real run at the nomination if he wanted to.
He definitely is polling well when people ask those questions in a poll.
Yeah.
From Scott in Rochester, New York. Jesse, if you had an opportunity to have an interview with a sitting Democratic senator, who would it be and why?
The problem with interviewing politicians, especially senators, is they are professional liars. They will not give you an honest answer and they will filibuster. So I would have to have 2 hours with some of these guys because you have to pin them down. If you have 5 minutes, you're never going to get any answers. You have to listen. Schumer, listen. You're not telling the truth because X or Y. You can't do that in a normal 5-minute interview. So it would have to be live. It would not be taped, and it would have to go long for us to get somewhere. So in terms of the most honest, straightforward senator, definitely not. You know what? You know who I would do? I would do Liz Warren, because I actually think I would either do Liz Warren or Bernie Sanders, because I think they believe what they're saying. I don't think they've thought what they're saying through that carefully, but I actually think they believe that. So it would be interesting to challenge those beliefs with facts and see if they could back up their opinion.
I'd like to interview Kirsten Sinema from Arizona, because I'm not sure if she believes.
You don't think she's...
I think she's actually quite on interview. She just sticks very close to her knitting in Arizona. So I would like to interview her.
Okay. Well, listen, you heard it. Let's go. Let's make it happen, Cinema.
Mark from Stowe, Ohio. What's it like to work with Greg Gutfeld and Dana Perino?
Well, it's an honor. They're total class acts, and they've done the show for 10 years. So, I came 4 years ago, but they know the show. They know what works, what doesn't work, and they kind of guide the conversations just beautifully. So I would say it's almost easy to work with professionals, and I think you know that at home. Whatever you're doing, if the person's extremely competent and professional, it can be a breeze.
How do you come up with your guests and topics that you want to do for a weekly show, like on Saturday night?
So not everybody has seen every show on Fox Monday through Friday, so I try to take the best stuff from the week and put it together in an entertaining and coherent way. Remember, Saturday, you're drunk. It's Saturday night. It's 8 o'clock. You're drunk. It could air at 5 o'clock Pacific time. So you're doing something a little more grabbier on the weekends because people are flipping and there's a party going on and they're inebriated. So you have to kind of do different things with the screen that you wouldn't do in a normal.
Inebriated? You think they're inebriated?
At 8 o'clock on Saturday?
Yeah.
My show repeats at 11 too, Dana.
Oh, okay.
So Saturday nights are a different audience, and there's sports on. So you're competing with sports.
Yeah.
Not easy, but we do the best we can.
The other night, I think it was a Friday night, and we were down at our place in New Jersey, and we walked by these neighbors, and it was like 7:30 p.m. And BJ from the porch, he yells, "Dana, what are you guys doing tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, I've already done it." like we had dinner, we're having a drink, like that's it.
7:30, guys. That's Dana's bedtime.
Well, you got up earlier with me this morning, but you got up early now because the baby.
I do. Jesse Jr.'s awake at 6, sometimes 5. So I elbow Emma. I think he's awake.
I don't think it works that way.
No, I do the early shift.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Jessica from Salinas, California. I've been following your career for years. What do you think makes How I Saved the World stand the test of time?
No one has ever written a book like this before. That is a direct quote from my editor. And I think he means it because he's never edited a book like this. This is not ghost written. These are authentic stories from a true American success story. See how I just get even more arrogant as I'm talking about the book, but it's true. This will make you live longer. There has been a study about that because laughter adds years to your life, and you will laugh when you read this book.
You will laugh a lot.
This will make you live. If you're going to die at 80, you'll live to 81 if you read this book.
Maybe 82.
It's a fact.
Okay. Here's a question from this young man named Colton from North Wales, Pennsylvania. Hi, Colton. So, hi, Jesse and Dana. Dana, it's Colton. We met at your signing in New Jersey.
Oh.
He wants to be the future Democrat on the 5. Jesse, any advice on how this young gay fan should hide his book when family and friends visit? Just kidding. Love you both. Excited to read it.
Yeah, put the book in the closet. Don't let them see it. But if you want to, it's a great conversation piece. Put it out on the coffee table. Pull it out from the bookshelf. People think you're very well read and very well rounded. And if you want to be a future liberal who appears on Fox, you got to have a sense of humor.
Yes.
I think you agree with
As
that.
I think
And don't take it personally.
And also bring some facts.
Yeah.
Bring some
For
counterfacts.
once.
Kimberly from West Lafayette, Indiana says, what is your most memorable street interview moment? And then she wants your most memorable moment, but you could choose any of these. Like street interview, which I think would be good to know. We've already started talking about the 5 and the O'Reilly Factor.
Well, listen, we've interviewed so many characters on the street. I did one up in Harlem when it was the Lakers owner, I don't remember, some racial controversy. And I met a guy with so much charisma. When I launched Waters World, we actually sent a producer back to Harlem to the same street corner to see if we could track him down. He was that good. I wanted to make him like a co-host or like a regular, like a Gutfeld type regular on the show. Couldn't find him. Oh. So I asked Fox, I go, can I put up wanted posters and have you seen this man up in Harlem called Fox? Big no.
They said no.
Big no. Would not let me put up posters. Have you seen this guy? Please call us at Fox. He was a star, and once in a while you find stars. I actually interviewed a guy at a concert, and I think he was in the mosh pit because he was really dazed and confused. More dazed and confused than you would be if he had taken hallucinogenics. A year later, next summer, I ran into him at a beach, and he confronted me and he said, "You interviewed me, man. I had a concussion." And I said, "I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean it." And so once in a while, you get those surreal experiences where you meet a guy that you've interviewed years later on the street. And sometimes it's nice, and sometimes it's not.
You have so much more, I guess, courage, bravery. Like, I am so shy to ask anybody for an interview in person. It's actually one of the reasons I didn't stay in journalism.
Why?
Well, because I was, you haven't read my book? No. I was at.
Early on.
Yeah, early on. So yeah. I was the state capitol intern for the CBS affiliate in Illinois.
Right.
But they weren't in session all the time. So I got sent to cover a murder trial. And it was, I was supposed to get an interview with the mother of a child who had been murdered. And the person on trial was the mom's good friend. So I went with the cameraman. We go to the courthouse, and I sat there and I was like, oh, I was trying to get up the guts to do it. And I walked around her like 4 times, and then I was like, I can't do it. And I went back to the studio with nothing.
Dana.
And I called my dad and said, I think I just got a degree in something I can't do.
So that was my biggest fear, was returning to the Factor empty-handed.
Right.
So he'd push me into these scenarios like Robert De Niro. And I had to ask Robert De Niro political questions, or I had to go to the Academy Awards red carpet and talk to Clooney. And you had to summon up the courage to be kind of a jerk. Right. Or ask really biting questions. You know, ask a governor, how many dead girls are you going to tolerate, governor? Yeah. You know, really tough stuff, and you have to have a lot of courage for that. And you also have to be shameless. You know,
that was my problem.
Be shameless. You know, I had to take a shower.
There's one of my favorite parts of the book is how you rate people on how they deal with an ambush.
Yeah, so we want people to explode on the camera like Sean Penn. We want someone to take a swing at me like Alec Baldwin would. So Rosie O'Donnell did that at a book signing one time when I asked her about why did you say 9/11 was an inside job? She said that on The View. Sponsors, policemen weren't happy about it. And she was cool at first. And then she turned her goons on me, and the goons will start grabbing the camera. And once you grab the camera, it jostles, it makes it exciting. It looks like I'm under attack. That's what we want on TV. We want that. So don't do that. We talked to Stan O'Neill, who ran Merrill Lynch into the ground. He took a $165 million golden parachute during the financial crisis. Guy golfed all day and left the shareholders with nothing. And I confronted him on the way to the golf course, and he didn't say anything. Just stared straight ahead, did the perp walk. You look guilty in the perp walk, okay? It's the thing. But you're gonna look worse if you engage me, because I'm gonna hit you with questions you're not prepared for.
Do you think that you could actually do those today, or are you too well known and famous?
I'm too famous, Dana.
Yeah, I think you're too famous.
I'm too busy. You have to stay sometimes 3 days outside someone's house. I missed the 5.
Christy from Douglas. Do you have siblings? If so, are they liberals like your mom?
So I used to pretend I was Schwimmer. Or no, I used to pretend I was Schwimmer's brother when I was single in Philadelphia. And we would go out with the guys, we'd hit the bars, and we'd talk to girls, and my friend would pretend like I was Schwimmer's brother. And we used to kick this game to the women. We used to say, oh, like, he changed, David, once he went Hollywood. Like mom doesn't hear from him anymore. It's just kind of like went Hollywood. And they'd ask me, and I'd say, Jennifer's great. She's cool, but David's just changed, and it would work. But I have a younger sister, Eliza, who's a lib. She's a professor.
Reads a lot.
She went to Middlebury, then she got her PhD at Oxford. She was a Marshall Scholar, then taught at Harvard.
Oh, your parents must be so proud.
So proud. So proud.
But you are a published author.
And now she's at Hopkins, and I'm a published author. Eliza. She's not watching.
I bet she's not watching.
Definitely not watching.
Claire, Greater Sudbury, Ontario. Which character's story did you consider adding to your book, but paused and thought it might be too far out there to put in? And did you decide to add it anyway?
There was a story about how I made donuts all over my dad's school's property.
And not the kind you eat.
Yeah, not the kind I eat. And then afterwards, when you read the book, you'll see how I was taken to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting afterwards. And I had to stand up in front of a bunch of junkies and say what my addictions were. I did not have addictions. I just had a rough night. But
your parents are awesome.
I was worried about putting that in there because I didn't want to hurt. My dad's retired. I didn't want to hurt his image in the community that he's involved in. But we put it in.
But didn't you decide? I mean, didn't you try to say that you didn't do it?
I tried to lie when the groundskeeper brought me outside, and then he pointed to the car with grass all over it, and I said, "You got me."
Yeah, you got you. Hold on here. Let me just see. George from Corpus Christi. I think you're great, but why is my wife so much more in love with you than I am?
Well, I mean, she can't help herself. It's hormones. You can't control it. But I'm sure she's a lovely woman, and
I liked it how in the
shower her with gifts.
In your acknowledgments, when you say to Emma, it's very loving to his wife Emma, but you said thanks for not picking on you to keep writing, because that would have been annoying. That was so funny.
So you've written books before. Does Peter ever? Wouldn't it be annoying? And this was during the pandemic, so there's nothing else to do. Mm-hmm. So if I was procrastinating,
why aren't you writing?
Yeah, like, hey Jesse, like, what are you watching TV for?
Yeah.
Like, Jess, why don't you work on your book? Like, I would have been really pissed if she did that, and she didn't do it. She's very soft touch. And
you had a baby in the middle of this book coming out.
Yep, we have a pandemic baby, and Jesse Jr. made his first debut on live television today. Didn't cry, total natural. And
he was so cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him start filling in for.
He looks just like
me.
you.
Yeah, he does.
And like in your baby pictures, does he look just like you?
Yes, like a grumpy old man.
You don't look like a grumpy old man now. Greg looks like that.
Greg, he looks like Greg.
Lee wants to know. She's from Aurora, Illinois. Has Greg ever invited you to his lake house?
I've tried to get an invite. He's never officially invited me. He said, "Oh yeah, you should come up." It's far, Dana. It's in upstate New York. Greg, when he bought the house, said it was in upstate New York. So we're thinking Albany. We're thinking like 4-hour drive.
Like Saratoga.
It's in like Westchester.
It's a suburb.
It's a 50-minute drive from the city, and so he thinks it's funny. He thinks it's some like cabin because it's made of wood.
What happened when they first asked you to be on the 5? Like, how did that go down? Were you surprised?
I was in DC on a shoot for The Factor. And I was actually just about to go to the White House to interview like Trump or someone for The Factor. And I got a call in the hotel room at like 4:00. Jesse, I have some bad news. We have O'Reilly's no longer going to be here at the company.
Oh, I was a guest hosting that night.
Yeah. But, and I was very upset. And,
yeah.
And then she said, but you were going to be joining the 5. And
wow.
It was a kind of a bittersweet moment at first because my whole world kind of turned upside down and sideways at the same time. So, and we were put on at 9:00 in the beginning, and that was strange.
It was, but I have to say, like when you joined, and even though we had to go to 9:00, I loved it. I was so glad that you were there. I loved watching you on your Water's World segments, and working with you has been wonderful and getting to know you. And
Oh, thank you, Dana.
like it's wonderful to have colleagues like we do here. We're making fun of Greg. We love
Greg. You know, my parents won't let me play with Greg, but I'm allowed to play with Dana. So Dana and occasionally we'll go out to dinner. We'll do something fun.
Yeah, and I got to hold him first.
Yes, you did. You did.
We only have about 4 more minutes. So I'm trying to see if there's any here. Teresa from Huntington Beach just has a compliment.
Oh.
Why aren't you in the movies so tall, dark, and handsome?
Oh, Teresa from Huntington Beach.
Okay, well, here's a good question. Jennifer from South Haven, Mississippi. So funny. Anytime you write a book, this is one of the questions you'll get immediately when you've just finished, which is, congratulations on your new book. Now that you have saved the world, what will you write for a second book? I'm Jennifer, and this is my question.
Good one, Jennifer. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be good to write something about my childhood, because there's more stories where this came from. And I was thinking about doing something with my sister, maybe bringing her into the mix and doing something like that, maybe co-authoring something with my mother, who knows. But what I wanted to do, because I came in the beginning of Trump. I have all these notes from every show. And now I'm going to do 4 years. We hope it's just 4 years of Joe Biden. I would love to kind of compare those two presidencies, those two terms, how the media covered both of them, just the vibe of both terms. And I think that would be enlightening to see how the media covered both presidencies and what happened in each presidency, and kind of compare and contrast. I don't know if people would like that, but it could be a lot of work.
You talk about, yeah, it would be a lot of work, but sounds like a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, not bad.
You talk a lot about media here. How much other news media do you consume?
You want to know my daily diet?
Sure.
So we get emails in the morning for this show.
Mm-hmm. But those don't come until like 10.
No.
Do you get the brain room ones in the morning?
No, I don't look at those. I get them. I don't look at them.
Wow, I love those.
You would. We get cheat sheets, like an editorial cheat sheet from, I don't think I should be disclosing this, but we get great editorial notes in the morning of stories and headlines from people here that are really sharp editorially. I get a couple of those from different shows.
Wait, what are those?
I don't know about a couple of shows, but I get some of that stuff.
I think I need to get on these lists.
Yeah, and then I read the Post, hard copy.
Love the Post.
I read the Post.
It's like the school newspaper.
It's so good, Dana, and it's in color.
Yeah, it's so good.
And there's pictures.
You get it delivered?
Of course.
Nice.
And it's a big part of my morning. And then I go on Twitter. I see what's trending on Twitter, and maybe I'll dial in and see what's going on. And that's it, Dana.
You don't watch America's Newsroom?
I watch America's Newsroom at 9 o'clock, but I honestly don't. I don't watch Fox and Friends. I don't watch America's Newsroom or Outnumbered. I don't watch any Fox. I really don't. Sometimes I watch Tucker or Hannity late, but it's a lot when you're in this business.
But I also think that it clouds what your own thinking sometimes, because you want to be original and have original thoughts.
If I start repeating what Kilmeade says at 5, shoot me.
But if you watch America's Newsroom, you'll be so smart.
No, I mean, I dial in if it's on, but it's not, I'm feeding a baby, Dana.
Yeah, so I know. And my friend saw you feeding the baby.
Yes.
And Peter saw you.
I'm all about town with my stroller.
Yeah, since I met you, you got married, got a dog, and had a baby.
What's next?
And a book.
What is next? What else?
Think that, you know what? I think bask in it for a while. The book is so good. Anybody who's on here tonight, I mean, you're in good company, and you will be smarter than everybody else for having read this book. And you'll also get a lot of laughs out of it as well. So we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and thanks for letting me be a part of your world for a night.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege, Dana. And last thing, speaking of Dana, her doppelganger, Reese Witherspoon, her book recommendation for her little book club is beating me on Amazon. It's number 1. How I Save the World is number 2. I don't have a beef with Reese. True, because I'm tall, dark, and handsome, according to Teresa from Huntington Beach.
Wow,
but I always remember who compliments me. But if you don't like Hollywood, don't buy that. Buy How I Save the World and make me number 1.
Well, or buy 2 and give 1 to a friend.
No, Dana, you're not getting it. Oh yeah, buy 2 of my books.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We sell books. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.